River Phoenix by Joe Dicola. River Phoenix was born in Oregon. His first initial name was River Jude Bottom, but it was later changed. We'll get to that in a second. By the time River was 2, him and his family moved to Venezuela, where his father was teaching a religious group. After returning from Venezuela, the whole family changed their last names to Phoenix. When River was going throughout his years as a young man, his family was moving from place to place and eventually landed in Los Angeles, where his parents encouraged him to try out for acting, as they did with all their other children. They lived out of a little van that wasn't that big to begin with, until River landed his first television role, 7 Brides for 7 Brothers. River is the one at the bottom in the middle. I've seen this show, actually, and I have to admit, it's pretty cheesy for today's standards, but River does do a great job in it. I do have to admit. His agent said that River had a unique quality that no kid has ever had before. He had a personality with a bit of an emotional side and behaved like an adult. His first film ever was a sci-fi film called Explorers, which he starred alongside Ethan Hawke in his first movie as well. Director Joe Dante described him as a young Clark Kent. River's in the middle, Ethan Hawke is on the left. I've seen this movie, and again, it's pretty cheesy for even an 80s movie, but it's a fun ride if you can bypass seeing Ethan Hawke as a young kid. His next film was an absolute breakout sleeper hit which made people remember his name. If you haven't seen this movie, do so as quickly as possible. Stand By Me is the movie I'm talking about, and it's a coming-of-age story where 4 12-year-old boys go on a journey to find a dead body. During filming, River was having a hard time crying during an emotional scene, so director Rob Reiner told him to think of something tragic that happened to him as a child, and then River gave the performance that moved everyone on set. This movie is probably my favorite coming-of-age film ever, and every single one of the kids gives an outstanding performance, but River in particularly gives just the best performance I think I've ever seen a kid ever give. River's next movie came shortly after Stand By Me, where he starred alongside Harrison Ford in the movie Mosquito Coast. The movie is about a man who is fed up with America and decides to move him and his family to a rainforest on an island. Harrison Ford said that he was one of the brightest kids he has ever met in his life and worked with professionalism. I've seen this movie, and it's a pretty good movie, a pretty good character study, I would say, but nothing really that special. His second most notable role, which wasn't a big part, is when he was a young Indiana Jones in the 3rd installment of the series, which was entitled Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. Harrison Ford was the one that recommended him for the part. I do have to admit, he does a pretty good job and actually does look like a young Harrison Ford in that picture. His next movie, Running on Empty, earned him an Oscar nomination. The movie is about a family who are on the run because the parents blew up a chemical plant and accidentally blinded a man, and the oldest son, who's River, is starting to become interested in playing piano and ultimately has to decide his future, whether it's going to be staying with his family or going to school and pursuing a career in music. And I do have to admit, that is a pretty good movie as well. Probably his second best movie, in my opinion. River Phoenix's last finished movie was called My Own Private Idaho, which was about a gay street hustler named Mike trying to create a romantic relationship with his friend, played by Keanu Reeves. Keanu and River were very close friends at the time of shooting and had to practice their lines together most of the time because it was Shakespearean dialogue. For the part, River even interviewed real street hustlers to really gain a knowledge of what it was like as a street kid. I've seen this movie as well, and I'm not particularly a big fan of it just because of the Shakespearean dialogue, but Keanu Reeves and River Phoenix do give pretty great performances in it. Aside from being a popular actor, he was also a popular animal rights activist. He was vegan and also had his own band called Alika's Attic, where he played alongside his sister, Rain Phoenix. Now, you're probably wondering where he is today. Well, sadly, on October 31st, 1993, outside Johnny Depp's nightclub known as the Viper Room, River overdosed on heroin. His sister Rain held him in her arms while he slowly died. He was filming a movie called Dark Blood that never got finished due to his untimely death. He was cremated with a shirt of his band, and his ashes were scattered on a beach in Florida, which was his favorite place. You may recognize the name Phoenix. That's probably because you're thinking of Joaquin Phoenix, which is his actual brother in real life. He carries on his legacy as a well-known actor today. He has never, ever talked about his brother publicly. Neither has any of his family members. In 2012, the director of Dark Blood decided for his dying wish that he would finish the movie with his narration going through the parts that weren't filmed. It only premiered at certain festivals and earned an 80% on Rotten Tomatoes. I have yet to see this movie, but I really, really want to. So, why am I making this project about River Phoenix? Well, in my opinion, he did live a short life, but he did do a lot in those few years that he had. He was the oldest of 7 brothers and sisters and was almost like a parent to them. In the few interviews I've seen him in, he seems like a cool guy with a lot of charisma. He remains one of my favorite actors because he took movies seriously and thought that movies helped people through their days and helped them forget their lives for a couple of hours. He was one of the best actors to ever be filmed. And I don't think a lot of people really remember him today, which they should. That's why I made this project. Rest in peace, River Phoenix. Guys, I definitely recommend you checking out his movies. I think they're worth your time. Thank you.